episode of the Feel Your Worldview podcast. I'm your host, James Knight. As always, this podcast is dedicated to tracing out the complex trauma we have all received from childhood and your philosophical worldview, adult. That trauma really affects how you see the world around you. Today, I want to talk about an interesting problem that I'm seeing with regard to the LA fires. As we witness the utter destruction and horrific scope of this tragedy, of course, people are scrambling to figure out what is going on, how did it happen, all those things. And that's what we should do. That's as a race of people, we should always be striving to make things better than how it was in the past. And so this is no different. We're going to have to figure out how this all happened. And of course, it's happening in real time, and we have the social media. So this is how things go now. Right? We are speculating in real time about what exactly happened. We're getting snippets of information from different areas. Some of it's true, some of it's not true. I have noticed since the Kyle Rittenhouse affair, we have really seen the news cycle go this way. It seems like every time. And if I stop to go back and think about it, we would likely see this pattern present itself much farther back, where the news will give us on-the-spot coverage, and they'll give us the facts they know. And those facts will make somebody look bad, either politicians or whoever. And then we'll get a spin on it the next news cycle to undermine the initial news that was presented. And this is a fascinating thing that I see. And all the politicians do it, Republican, Democrat. This is not a party issue, right? This is a power issue. And so I kind of want to talk about a very important author that I really got a lot of value out of. It's Robert Greene. And he wrote several books on this topic, but the book I'm talking about today is 48 Laws of Power. And in 48 Laws of Power, Robert breaks down the transition from the naked aggression that happened in the Roman days to the way it evolved over time, right? So by the time Machiavelli comes on the scene, he sees that power has shifted, and the population of people is so high that if you put the citizens in danger, they could revolt and take down the monarchy, right? That's a real issue. It's hard to stop an angry mob of 1 million people, even though they have pitchforks. Especially back then, they didn't have machine guns. They had a strong military, but that's not the same thing. You can, one well-trained soldier can easily be taken down by 20 peasants. So it's not something that was taken lightly back then. Now, in the present, one well-trained soldier with a machine gun could kill hundreds of people in minutes. So it's a different level of backlash. But back then, the evolution of power came to, you take your iron fist and you wrap it in a velvet glove, and everybody knows the power is there, but everybody also buys in on the illusion that they're being caressed by the velvet glove, even though that's steel gauntlet underneath. So with all this being said, I want to talk about this quote from Robert Greene's book. It says in the introduction of the 48 Laws of Power, it goes as follows. Power is essentially amoral, and one of the most important skills to acquire is the ability to see circumstances rather than good or evil. Power is a game. This cannot be repeated too often, and in games, you do not judge your opponents by their intentions, but by the effect of their actions. You measure their strategy and their power by what you can see and feel. How often are someone's intentions made the only issue, only to cloud and deceive? What does it matter if another player, your friend or rival, intended good things and had only your interest at heart, if the effect of their actions leads to so much ruin and confusion? It is only natural for people to cover up their actions with all kinds of justifications, always assuming that they had acted out of goodness. You must learn to inwardly laugh each time you see or hear this, and never get caught up in gauging someone's intentions and actions through a set of moral judgments that are really an excuse for the accumulation of power. That's Robert Greene, 48 Laws of Power, in the introduction. So I'm bringing this up because on X, there is a echo chamber of sorts where the conservative side of things are adequately pointing out that this is gross incompetence on the fact that how the LA government is handling this fire. And they're not wrong. Okay, this is incompetence, but Is it incompetence or is it something more? So hear me out on this. When we look at the pattern over, gosh, let's just call it the last 10 years, at the height of when the woke started to really come online and really show that they were taking over the reins of power. And they've been, I think, as far back as 2012, they've been a significant force in the world and have driven us into all kinds of strange paradoxes that we keep running into. This is one of them, right? If you starve your state of water, then you create your own drought. And if you create your own drought, then all of the plants turn into this dry material that is a tinderbox of explosive destruction. And all you need is one accident or one malicious act, and poof, up in smoke it goes. And here we are. We're watching it in real time. It just so happens that this time it's affecting the very rich of the California demographic. I mean, I can't tell you how many actors I've seen on social media talking about how they lost their house, and, different people, Paris Hilton, all of these people that have no care in the world because they're richer than God, are seeing that the consequences of certain policies have hit them right in their own backyard. But the conservative talking points are pointing out incompetence. I hear it all the time: incompetence, incompetence, incompetence. But isn't that giving them the benefit of the doubt that it's not more nefarious than that? Just stop and think about that, right? If someone is incompetent and you put them in a position, sure, how can you blame them for their failures? Because they were incompetent. So of course they didn't handle it properly. But this is happening over and over and over again. We're seeing it at all levels of government and all levels of power, where these so-called incompetent people get put in with an agenda, right? And their agenda is specific to prosecute the DEI agenda and get that agenda rolled out. And there is never an end to this agenda, right? So as they take over a position, they put the right person in power. I remember the lady that was running the Secret Service after Trump was the first assassination attempt hit him, and they rolled out the tapes of her talking about inclusivity and making sure there's plenty of women in the Secret Service and all that stuff. Well, the mayor's talking the same thing in LA, right? The fire department captain is talking about the same thing. This is the agenda. The agenda is to get the cronies in positions of power so that they can control everything. See, was it incompetence, or was it a clear takeover of power that just resulted in this horrible fire? Okay. And of course, they can't stop the fire because all the resources are shifted into this agenda. So this is not incompetence. This is what they fall back on, finger pointing and all that kind of stuff. They fall back into this place so that they can maintain power. And everybody's like, well, they're just incompetent, so we'll just fire them and everything will work out, right? But no, if they fire the captain, the fire captain, and the mayor, they will just replace them with the same person and they will move on by the numbers. You have to stop and really pay attention to how they do their magic. Gavin Newsom is just talking about, this is so insidious how they do this, right? So at this point, everybody's seen that memo that the fire chief is complaining to the mayor and saying, hey, if you cut 17 million from my budget, the following consequences are likely. Okay. And then now, after everybody saw the memo, right? This is the beauty of social media, is you cannot stop people from seeing this stuff. In years past, before social media was there, before the internet was there, they could get away with changing the story and no one would really have realized it except for the people that were watching in real time at the beginning of the news cycle. So when the news cycle points out that this, and this happened, they're acting in the moment and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing is reporting what they know. Okay. So as you see this problem unfold in the past, they could just quietly deny that first report ever happened, unless someone happened to be, recording it with their VCR or whatever. No one would be able to recover that news coverage, right? They wouldn't. It would be just gone and they'd push out of the way. They'd replace it with the narrative they wanted in after they thought about it. This is the wag the dog thing. And they have this narrative. Now they can tweak it and fix it and roll the new narrative. And then people now are aware that there was a tragedy. And then they're like, now they're paying attention and they get the narrative. It's really quite wicked how it works out. So in this case, we all saw that memo about the 17 million. So Gavin Newsom is now spinning it that, well, that is not true. California, see the switch there. First, it's LA had a $17 million cut to the fire department in LA. But now Gavin is saying, no, that never happened. California never cut $17 million from the budget of the firefighters. Now you see how that's a very sneaky thing to do. We know that California didn't cut the budget, right? But in this zeal to get the news out and this zeal to control the narrative, they have to do the bait and switch. They have to get the people that believe in them the talking points they need so that they can go out on social media and fight. And you'll see this. It's already there, but every news cycle that I can remember, back to Rittenhouse, but I know it's further than that, you get a report. The Paul Pelosi thing was the same way. You get a report and the reporters on the ground report what they know. And then you get the next news cycle in like 24 hours or whatever, and they start reporting different things and they conflict with the original reports. And then people that saw the original report are like, wait a minute, that's not what they said yesterday. What's going on here? Okay. And then they do this trick where they introduce more and more and more conflicting information. And then somehow it gets political. And then there's a divided line between the Republicans and the Democrats, and they're fighting each other with the talking points. And then they pull in the centrist people, and it gets this big mess going on. And then we're distracted. And I think the whole point of the news cycle is distraction. And as horrible as the Los Angeles fires are, they always dogpile in to make sure that we're distracted. Okay. So now we can't get any straight information. The $17 million budget cut. Now it didn't happen. It did happen. What happened? Now everybody's like confused. And those of us that actually saw the memo are like, no, we saw it. And then we dig in our heels and then we fight. But see, that's the thing. We're not asking the right questions. There's a great quote from Thomas Pynchon. If they get you asking the wrong questions, the answers don't matter. So if they get us to think that all we're dealing with is rank incompetence, we stop asking the questions of how did this rank incompetent people assume the position in every government, state, local, federal, county? Like, these incompetent people are in charge of everything. Well, that doesn't sound like incompetence to me. That sounds like they're running a very, very tight playbook and they are winning. Think about that. They're winning. They are in control of everything, even at the global level now, right? If you look at the World Economic Forum and the United Nations and all those different places, these people control that too. And it always deflects into the backdrop of incompetence, but the pattern is the pattern. It just keeps on repeating. And here we are in 2025 on the verge of economic collapse. Is that incompetent or is that evil genius? See what I mean? I'm on the side of evil genius because we have all the hubbub going on in the UK as well with the horrible rape stuff that's being reported. And that's the same thing. And if you look at England, England specifically, you can see that the replacements in their leaders, it's like they call out the one guy, Boris, right? They call him out and he resigns. They replace him with someone worse. And then they replace that guy with someone worse. And we think that things got fixed because Boris got fired. But no, they actually now have maneuvered the person they really wanted all along into the seat of power. Okay, we have that with Biden. They almost got Kamala elected. This is an impressive playbook if you look at it through the outcome of the actions and what consequences are felt from those actions. So remember, the point of this podcast is to help you figure out who you are, why you see the world you do, and to also see how those that manipulate the world take advantage of your scar tissue in order to push you in a direction that they want you to go. It's vital that you get to this place of understanding that you see how someone could manipulate you. And in order to take that away from anybody that might try to manipulate you, you have to know yourself. You have to know why you see the world the way you see it. And you have to start to turn that around and remove those buttons that allow others to manipulate you. This is the whole point of a healthy boundary. But how can you have a healthy boundary if you don't know who you are, if you don't know right from wrong, if you don't know any of this stuff, right? That's why we don't get taught these things, is so that we are easily controlled, we are easily manipulated, and no one knows which way is up. So, as always, if you found value in this podcast, please do like and subscribe. It really does help get my message out there. And as always, I'll see you on the next one, and have a great day.